Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV 7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey, friends, will you join me for just a minute and imagine how amazing you'd feel living the unique and distinct life that you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value to others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you it makes a very happy life. And so can my friend Chris Zerzavy. And he's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. But before bringing him on, I'd like to share a poem that we created to thank him for being our guest starter today, called Living and Loving Like John. And it goes like this: a life of faith, of love so wide, God, country, family as his guide, a father proud, a heart so true, until one night the darkness grew. In just one instant, dreams were shattered, a son was lost, a soul left battered, yet through the pain, through crushing loss, God's grace can reach beyond the cross. Now hope and purpose rise anew, a love unshaken, strong and true. A dad honors his son and all he's done by living and loving like John, his son.
Hmm.
Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt, thank you for having me on. And man, starting it off, I love that. Thank you so much. I appreciate what you're doing here and having me on the show. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Very good. Well, Chris, why don't you get us started by telling us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world?
Absolutely. Well, I'm a husband and a father. I have my wife Lauren and three kids, Abigail, Owen, and Tyler. We travel for our sports a lot, stay active, keep going 100 miles an hour as always. Um, I'm a Christian. I strive to serve Christ daily. I want to honor him in everything I do. I'm a
Mhm.
civil servant. I work for the Department of Army. I love what I do. I love protecting the freedoms that we enjoy every day. And as you mentioned in the opener, I really strive to honor John's life and everything that I do. That's a big part of what I'm doing nowadays.
Very good. And tell us that you have about an extensive 17-year Army career. Give us a quick overview of when you were serving, what you were doing, and then give us a little bit of an introduction to the book that you're writing or that you've written.
Absolutely. So I started at Fort Sill when I was still at Cameron University. I was an intern. I got my foot in the door to do some resource management stuff. I guess I did decently because they've kept me out there since then doing the same thing, just moving up the chain. So I worked in manpower, worked my way up to team lead, got up to the division chief level, budget officer, and now I'm the deputy director in the organization. So it's been a wonderful career. I love it. I love the people I work with and what I do. And that's just offered me a lot of opportunities professionally. And also, you mentioned the book that has given me the opportunity to write that as I needed to. You know, the benefits of civil service give you time off when you need to. And I was at a point in a
Mm.
time that I needed some time off and I needed to get some things off my chest. And so that's where margin came from. And it's been a great opportunity, been a great career for me.
And I think I saw just from social media that you had a great big book signing event this weekend.
I did. It was actually yesterday. Yes, we have a lot of family in town. They just left today. So just one thing to the next. And I'm in loving every minute of honoring John's life.
Very good. And one more thing while we're on the current life that you're living, you came to us from my very beautiful and powerful sister-in-law, Sarah, I think recommended you.
Absolutely. She's a wonderful lady. I got a developmental opportunity to go work with her for a little bit. One of the greatest leaders I've worked with, really invested in me, gave me a different perspective on things, and really enjoyed a lot of good time with her. She's a wonderful woman.
Well, thank you to Sarah and thank you, Chris, for that intro. So now
Thanks.
let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula, Chris. And it's simple, but it's super powerful, and it goes like this: power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power that you need to get things done, whether it's physically, mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally? In other words, Chris, what do you do on a regular basis to create the power you need to take excellent care of yourself and your loved ones and still have margin or plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
Absolutely. You know, time is our limiting factor, and so I have to balance that out with the activities that we have going on. For me, I'm a creature of habit. I like to do things the same way. I like to work out 5:30 in the morning every day and get that done. I know for me, I have to be disciplined about that. I have to decide the night before I'm going to work out at 5:30 because if I leave it to my motivation, I'm going to stay in that warm bed when that alarm clock goes off. So
Hmm.
it has to be a predetermined thing that I'm going to get up and do it. And I've gotten that into a habit. So that's something that I do. And that just seems to set my day off from there on. I get my workout in, recharges me for the day, lets me focus my mind, gets me on point for what I have before me that day. As far as the other aspects, I think mentally and emotionally, those are things that I have to keep a constant tab on. I think even in the journey several years out, there's some days that I don't have what I used to would have had.
Hmm.
So I have to check my balances and make sure that I'm okay for what I have on my plate for that day. I have to take assessment of my capacities, what's on the agenda, and sometimes you have to make adjustments for those things to allow yourself a little bit more grace than what you were used to before. So that's something that I've had to change to really hone in on this season of life and what I have available to me. I think the cool thing for me, though, is this spiritually, this journey has been one that's been significant. And
Hmm.
um, what I mean by that is you hit the nail on the head. Life was going wonderfully. And when it happens that way, I think I was in a place where I was almost self-reliant, and when you get that, you're not really relying on God to be God. You're
Hmm.
taking that role on yourself. And so when you get to a point where you can't rely on yourself even to get through a day, you get to operate in the gift of God's grace, and you get to know him
Yeah.
in a way that's different than what you hear in a church pew or what you read in the Bible and the pages, which are all wonderful and real and relevant, but you get to know him just in an authentic way that I wouldn't have gotten to know him had I continued to rely on myself and walk down the path that I'm in. Really just a transitional journey, I think, of getting to
Hmm.
know our spiritual father in a way that I wouldn't have gotten to before.
Yeah, that's interesting that you said that. I'm working on a season finale, and I'm going to delve into that very topic. Where does our power come from? And if we think it's coming from ourselves, we have struggles. And when we know it's coming from Him, then things go better.
Things go a
So,
lot better. Absolutely. I'm excited to hear about that one then. That'd be
all
great.
right. So, Chris, let's discuss my favorite power generating concept. Interesting about power. Um, it's called a Kaizen state of mind, and it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. Kaizening life is knowing there's always something that I can do better tomorrow than today. And it creates this optimistic, gentle, but powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day. So, Chris, how does Kaizening your life help increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Man, I like that idea. I kind of hit on a similar idea in the book, and it's called margin multipliers.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I found myself on a lot of days where I just didn't have much to give. And I didn't want that cycle to be something that was repetitive. You know, I had a family, a wife, kids that relied on me. So I had to
Mm-hmm.
be able to function and even contribute to the successes of their lives. That's my role as the leader of the home. And so I would look for what I called margin multipliers, or those small deposits into my days that didn't take from me, but added to my cup. And I think that's a lot of what you're saying with Kaizen there. That's what I was looking for because I needed those things that built me up. For me personally, it was activities with my kids. I enjoyed watching them be happy. I enjoyed watching them do what they enjoyed doing. I enjoyed participating in those things with them. And so I did that more often because it built me up.
Mm-hmm.
Being
Mm-hmm.
outside in nature, enjoying what God created, seeing the birds fly and hearing them chirp, and just doing things around the house, those seem to fill me up as opposed to take from me. So that's where I spent time doing. Lifting weights, spending time in the gym, knowing that that was building up my body. Those were the deposits that I was trying to make along the way to make sure that I was building up and getting those deposits to be able to function in my core responsibilities of my life. So it was important to me, and those are things that I just wanted to always invest in. But it's easy to forget when you're in a depleted state.
Yep. And so if we talk about power, earthly power, lifting weights and spending time in nature and all that, if we try to apply, how would you apply Kaizen to using the power that you're getting from God now that you're more deeply in that you're more recognizing that's where your power comes from. How can you kaizen, or can you kaizen that power?
Oh, absolutely. I think the formalization of what a prayer life looked like to me when I was growing up is differently than the conversations that I have with God constantly now. I think those are the Kaizen deposits of where I used to would just do something. He and I have a conversation about it. Sometimes it's a pleasant conversation. Sometimes we argue, even though he doesn't really argue with me. It's more me arguing with myself. Um,
Mhm.
but they're conversations with somebody I know has shown up in enough of my yesterdays that I know he's going to be there tomorrow. And that's one of the things that I have to give credit to my pastor because he's said that so many times that it's just burned into my soul. I know he's going
Mhm.
to be there. He doesn't he doesn't just show up yesterday. He's going to be with us forever. And so knowing that, I can rely on him
Yeah,
in those hard times. I can rely on him in the easy times. And I
yeah,
think that's part of the transition now is the stuff that was easy before that I would just go through my day and rely on me for. Sometimes they're not so easy. And so
mm,
I do rely on him. And I think that's a good example of the Kaizen there is that
yeah.
he's always there making those deposits to help me get through those times where I don't have it.
Yeah, and as a Christian, the simple concept of what I try to do is every day become a little more like Jesus. That is Kaizen. That's
Yeah,
Kaizen defined. And of course, we're never going to reach it. That's not the point. The point is to keep taking those small baby steps day after day, and that builds you, it gives you more power and a much more pleasant life.
absolutely.
All right, now let's dig into purpose. That's the second element of our happy formula. And I've observed that major life transformations and those great big discoveries of purpose often come sadly through devastation, addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster, something awful just strips a life to its core, resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover purpose in my life through inspiration. So, Chris, we know the audience doesn't know this yet, but they will now. We know that September 25th, 2022 brought unconceivable devastation upon you and your family. And what I'd like you to do is take us back to those days and try to help the audience understand what your life was like in the weeks and months before John's death, and then the soul crushing hopelessness and darkness that must have followed his death instantly. And then the light and renewal and resolve that grew as God revealed to you the purpose he means you to live in honoring your son's death.
Man, yeah, I love the way that you went around the whole process because that's exactly the journey I'm on. Um, September 24th of 2022, I was living on a mountaintop. Um, Everything was going right. We were building this home that I'm in right now. Um, Kids were doing well, life was good, job was going well. Man, just really living the life that I felt like I was supposed to be a part of. Uh, September 24th, we came out to this house. We weren't working that night. We were having a cookout, had some friends over. The house was completely dried in, meaning that it was preserved off from the elements outside, but internal, it was just the studs, didn't have any
Mm,
sheetrock, anything like that. So the
mm,
plan for that night was to come out, have a cookout, enjoy it, and then some of our closest friends and us were going to stay in the house for the first time that night, just to enjoy it, enjoy the whole
mm,
process. Um, Man, we were having a good night. I remember it. It was a fall night. We had a fire going, and you could smell everything. We were cooking steaks, uh, just perfection. I mean, I wouldn't describe it any other way.
mm.
Right up until the point that the phone call came in. Um, I remember where I was. I was in the master bedroom. It was late. My phone rang and I didn't expect to get a call that night. It wasn't a number I recognized. And when you answered the phone, that's when I went from the mountaintop to the valley.
Mm.
Um, they told me that there was an accident. They could provide updates on everybody in the vehicle except my John, and they didn't give me any other information than that. So at that point, we made the trip. It was about 55 miles north to Chickasha.
How old John was just turned 13?
He just turned 13. Yes, his birthday was September 21st, so
Ah,
just 4 days prior. Yep, and they they're actually coming home from a University of Oklahoma football game, which me and John had been to many games together. He had got gifted those tickets. He was up there with his best friend, his mom, and his stepdad, sending me pictures, having the time of his life. So
Mm,
he too was on the mountaintop.
mm,
And then that moment changed everything. Man, it's like everything that was important 1 hour ago is no longer important.
mm,
Everything in your life that you were assured of 1 hour ago, you no longer even knew if it was a belief that you had anymore. Um, Mountaintop to truly rock bottom in one moment. And then the journey following that, we're at the good side of that where we're getting to honor John and love him and really live the life that we want to honor his life and bring, hopefully healing to other people who are going through a similar journey. But to get to that point, you had to go through a trial for a man who was driving impaired that killed my son. You had
mm,
to go through the emotions of the firsts of everything, from
mm,
holidays to a Father's Day where somebody's missing, to eating at a table where you had prepared 6 meals before. Now you only have 5 plates. I mean, everything that you do that is normal has this shadow over it of something that's missing. And
yeah.
that was our reality. And man, I would try to invest in the small things. I would try to do the things that I knew that were good for me, but no matter what I did, I was depleting. And you think you're at rock bottom and then you get further down, and then you think you're at rock bottom and then you get further down. And
Mm,
that was part of the journey to get to where man, purpose comes in. And I had to struggle through that because for me, there was an internal battle of wanting to honor my son, wanting to
mhm,
live a Christian life, dealing with anger, and not trying to have hatred for a man who took something from me in an
mm.
unfair way. And so dealing with all of that was something that I didn't have the capacities to, and I really had to seek out some help to traverse the journey that we're on right now.
Mm. How did was what was there a catalyst for the turnaround that you had reached rock bottom? It sounds to me like you were going through the process intellectually knowing, of course, this is what I'm supposed to do and how I'm supposed to handle it, but emotionally not being able to do that. And was there a moment when that shifted for you, or was it slow and sudden, or slow and over time?
Yeah, I think it was a slow process. I think I um, knew I wasn't okay, but I was a self-reliant achiever. And
Hmm.
so you're not okay, but you're supposed to just be okay. Everybody's
Right,
always relied on you. And
right,
so trying to maintain that just depleted me even more. And so I
yeah,
think it got to a point where I had to seek some help from my pastor who helped me realize it's okay to not be okay.
yeah,
And then he put me in touch with a Christian family counselor that he meets with regular, and
mm,
he helped me unpack a lot of what was going on inside of me.
good,
And that was probably the most beneficial for me making that turn, because I wasn't able to do it on my own. God had to put people in my life that helped
yeah,
me when I couldn't help myself. And both of those men really, truly helped me make that turn into a place where I could begin to climb again. And the mountain was still in front of me. It was still a long journey, but at least I was able to reapproach it with people who were there to help me begin to climb.
very good. And Chris, so at what stage did you decide that you were going to create a book? First, when did that happen? Second, what was your expectations from the book when you started writing it? And how are you feeling about the book now? And what are your expectations today?
Man, yeah, I never intended to write a book. It was about a year afterwards, and things were somewhat more normal. I was able to function. I felt some happiness again. Some joy was creeping back in. But man, I wasn't sleeping.
Hmm.
I'd be in bed at night, and my brain just wouldn't shut down. Not necessarily about the accident or anything like that. But when I would go to sleep and wake up, I would wake up with all of these thoughts about John,
Hmm.
and I could not go back to sleep. And so after a couple of weeks of that, I was talking to my wife about it, and she encouraged me to write some of those thoughts down. And as I did, it was like, okay, this is just coming out of me. There's so much of it. Uh,
Hmm.
and I just started putting some of it together, some of the lessons I was learning, some of the struggles I was having, and it started taking the shape of what could be a book. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is something that could potentially help people.
Hmm.
And then I really started diving in because then that gives you that purpose that you're looking
Yeah.
for and a lot
Yeah.
of the pain. And so took a couple weeks off, wrote something. Um, didn't really have any expectations of it, but then had some people that I trust read it, and they're like, "Hey, you need to pursue getting this out to people because those that are
Awesome.
hurting or have grief or struggle with something could really benefit from what you've got here." So from there, hashed it out some more, worked with a publisher, worked with a published author that's in the family that helped me get it to the point that I was at, and we sent it in, and they helped me publish it. So it was great.
Congratulations. And then finally, how would you say over this experience of losing John, how has your purpose changed from the human being that you were on September 24th, 2022, to the man that we're looking at today?
Yeah, significantly. Um, a lot of what I struggle with now is that I truly, when I was trying to put this book out, I wanted John to be able to live on. I wanted the world to know who he was because I knew who he was and he was special. And so that's become a big part of my purpose is to let him live on long past
Mm,
me. And so I think we're doing okay with that so far. And that has even morphed to helping people who have been on a similar journey or different hurts
yeah.
that feel hopeless at times. And so man, the book has only been out for a short time, but I'm getting stories back from folks of this is exactly what I needed, or I think this book
Uh,
was written for me. And so I know God's using something that was, man, intended to destroy me to be able to help people that are on similar journeys. So super encouraged at this point for what potentially he could use this for in the future.
Very good. Very good, Chris. Thank you for sharing all that. We really appreciate it. Now let's take a commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Are you ready to transform your life? At happyliving.com, we've discovered 4 keys to help you live with purpose, joy, and significance. Unlock your truth with the Happy Quiz. Unlock your happy formula with inspiring stories from the Something Significant Show. Unlock your roadmap to happiness with our free ebook, Making Your Mark of Significance. And unlock your inspired life with our life-changing e-course, The Philosophy of You and Your Inspired Life. This is your time to shine. Go to happyliving.com now and click Unlock the Power of You. Unlock your power. Live your best life. happyliving.com.
And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Chris Zerzavy, and he's a senior civil service leader, a supervisor with an extensive 17-year Army career, a devoted husband and father, and the author of Margin, a powerful book on faith, grief, and healing. Chris has turned unimaginable pain into purpose after the tragic loss of his son, John. His message of living and loving like John reminds us all that even in life's darkest moments, God's grace brings hope, restoration, and strength. Oh, Chris, I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. And it says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway to discovering your reason for being on the planet. The science tells us that giving our time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway to discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So how about you, Chris? Has giving your time, talents, and treasures been a pathway for discovering your purpose and getting through overwhelming grief and darkness and for bringing real meaning and light back into your life?
Oh, I'd say absolutely. I think along with that, happy is fulfilled, and so that's truly what this journey is for me is a fulfilling journey of knowing that I'm where God wants me for this season. Um, man, I think something that sticks to me as far as this goes is a song that was written by Dayspring Community Church, which is in the beginning of my book. And if it's okay with you, I'll read a little bit from that song because I think it talks
Actually,
about
yes,
my
please.
journey.
It's in my notes, so I'm glad that you brought it up. I didn't have a chance to bring it in, but yes, please share that.
Excellent. So, okay, it goes like this. The part I wanted to emphasize is in the middle of the storm, I want to know you're here. When the waves are crashing I'm holding on to all of my fear. You said you'll never leave. Lord, help me to believe. There's joy in the journey. There's hope in the hurting. There's peace in your promise. God's grace all around us. And I think for me, man, that's so significant. This was a journey of a lady in the church that was battling cancer. And on her journey, she still found joy and she still used it as an opportunity to minister to people going through chemo right there beside her. And she shared joy with them on their journeys. And I think, man, for me, I have to deal with the vulnerability of sharing some of my struggles with the world. And that's what Margin was about is, man, I don't think some of this was fair. I have struggles inside of me that are hurt, that
Sure.
are pain, that are anger, and I share those in there and I'm vulnerable with that. And I think anybody who's going through a struggle in their life can relate to the sentiments that I share in there. And it's okay. And I think that's an important thing is in giving back to folks, I have to share my experience to allow them to continue to operate in their purpose, whatever that is for whatever journey that they're on. And so that's what I'm hopeful to give back through this book and through sharing John with the world.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned fulfillment versus happy, because when you throw around a little silly word like happy living and happiness, and you're talking about death and real tragedy, it doesn't fit. But there is still in that devastation, there is a kernel of fulfillment. And just give us 30 seconds or a minute on this and maybe how you experienced it. But you mentioned you're still hurting, but when you take, for me, this giving thing is about taking your eyes and your focus off yourself and putting it on others.
Right.
So even when you were a total train wreck, had to be the leader of your family, and so you had to pull it together and give. And in the giving, that brings you, if not happiness, at least fulfillment, at least some sense that you're here, you're in your purpose.
Absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. There are some days I'm not happy. There are some days that I am happy. But I think in all of that, you still have the joy of knowing that you're in your purpose. I mentioned margin multipliers before as far as where I was at the time of the crash. For me, some of the best margin multipliers now are those messages from people that are hurting. Um,
Mm,
hey, John's story impacted my life. This was
yeah,
written for me. Because then I know that the purpose that I'm in, the giving that we've done, is helping people that are on a journey where I was 18 months ago, 20 months ago. And so,
yeah,
yeah, giving of yourself in those moments is allowing them to be fulfilled, which brings you joy in those moments, which
yeah,
brings you happiness in those moments,
yeah.
and multiplies the capacity that you have to continue to give to others as you move forward. So it's a cycle of giving, and I love it, and I'm glad that God has chosen me to be able to provide this message. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I know that it's my purpose now, and
Yeah.
continuing to push that forward and helping others is a significant thing, and I'm honored to be the one to do it.
Oh, very good. All right, Chris. So the science tells us that giving to others brings real meaning to our lives. I think that's a good way to say it, not happiness, but real meaning. And the joy we feel from our fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others, confirms it. But there's something more to it than just the giving, Chris. I believe that the real magic of life comes when you're giving from living in your purpose, because it creates profound joy, not just for those who are receiving, but for the giver too, because your purpose comes from God. So, Chris, the audience and I would like to know how it makes you feel to be purposely living your life and giving to others through the work you were put on this planet to do, and the people all around you are taking notice. So sit back, open your heart, and have a listen to what people are saying about the impact that you're making on their lives by giving from living in your purpose. One person told me, I've always respected Chris as a dad, a husband, and follower of Christ. My respect for him has only deepened as I've watched him navigate personal tragedy. Another said his faith, the way he loves his family and his friends, is beyond measure. I love him.
Hmm.
Another said, Chris is an awesome man with an incredible story. I'm glad he's sharing it. And another, his son John is a powerful source. Chris's experience has encouraged me to focus more on the things that are genuinely important to me. Others said he's helpful, faithful, a blessing, positive, grateful, encouraging, giving, selfless, a very good friend, honest, a natural leader, an incredible person, joyful, uplifting. He makes us want to be a better person, extraordinary, an inspiration. Everybody deserves a Chris Zerzavy in this world.
Hmm.
Selfless, resilient, he makes anyone and everyone around him feel welcomed, appreciated, and supported. I cannot express enough how proud I am to call Chris my friend slash brother in Christ and, quote, office son.
Hmm.
And your brother said, I owe the man and father I've become to him. He taught me patience, work ethic, faith in what I'm doing, confidence in myself, and he gave me the same relentless spirit that he gave his children.
Hmm.
And finally, this person said, we grew into loving John following all his success in wrestling. Win or lose, he handled himself with such grace, love, and kindness, and that young man got everything from his father.
Hmm.
So, Chris, how does all that incredible love make you feel?
Whew, that's humbling. Yeah, that leaves me without words. I love every bit of it. That's it's hard to hear those things about yourself, but it is uplifting knowing that the purpose that I feel that I'm supposed to live is impacting people around me. Uh, Makes me proud as a dad to even hear the ones about John because that's what we wanted. That's what the things we talked about uh, in wrestling tournaments on the way to and from,
Mhm.
learning lessons on the mat, learning lessons from each other. So for others to see that and give that feedback about him, man, that's special. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. Very humbling.
You bet. And that's it, folks. That's what this show is all about. We're here to encourage you, our listeners, to search for and find that same magic in your lives. It's available for each of us. That's what I believe. And it comes from this great big happy circle. Giving your time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And giving from living in your purpose brings a profound joy to your life and to the lives of those around you, too. So it seems that giving leads to purpose and giving from purpose leads to joy. So John or Chris, to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula, just let me tweak it a little bit more.
Mhm.
To power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy or purposeful. How does that sound to you? Does that sound about right?
I think you nailed it. And we're in the giving phase now, and there is some exponential growth and fulfillment that comes for that. So I think you nailed it perfectly.
Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with the lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives. So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and ask you to tell us what they mean to you. And just give us the first thing, not the first word, but the first thoughts that pop into your mind, because we call this a lightning round.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. From Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit.
Man, I think that captures God at his core. That's what I've experienced by living in his grace. I was the brokenhearted, and he was there for me in my time of need. And that's what I hope everybody realizes out there is it doesn't have to be something as huge as a tragic loss of a child. You call out to God and you want to know him in the way that I feel that I've gotten to know him. He's all for it and he's ready for it. So go to him in your brokenheartedness and he'll be there for you.
Very good. This is from Hemingway. Pretty big step down from God, but still a very smart guy. The world breaks everyone, and afterwards some are strong at the broken places.
Man, I agree. Like I said, I was on a mountaintop. I don't think until September 25th that I had been broken like that, but it did get me. Um, And I can see how the pressure of that could crush some folks. There was
Mhm.
days that I didn't know if I was going to make it. But I think it's important to rely on those that you have in your life. I think it's important to make sure that you have people in your life that will catch you when you fall and want to
Mm.
help you along your journey to keep you going. And I think that is the source of what will keep you going in those days to come.
Yeah, very good. From Dr. James Dobson, he said, if something doesn't matter forever, if something doesn't matter forever, it doesn't matter at all.
Man, that's one that we've heard several times. I've heard my pastor use it as well. I believe he put it in the foreword of the book, in fact. Man, that is absolutely so true. And that is perspective that I think that I've gleaned from the journey I've been on. The things that were important on September 24th haven't been nearly as important since then.
Hmm.
Not to say that there's not significance in a lot of things that we do on a daily basis, but it definitely gives you perspective of how to approach them moving forward. I agree with that one wholeheartedly.
This is from Stephen Covey. He said, what you do has far greater impact than what you say.
Man, I think that's the way that I strive to live my life. I'm not a man of many words. In fact, this podcast has been nerve-wracking for me, but I'm glad to be able to get to be a part of it. But I do try to live a life um, that mimics the beliefs that I have. I do want to influence folks by what I do and not necessarily by what I say.
Hmm.
I think it's more impactful for what you say when they can see that it is what you do. And so,
Hmm.
and that quote is something that's significant and something that I strive to live every day.
Very good. This is one from my past. I don't know who the author is. I know who gave it to me. But it says, your day belongs to another's dream.
Man, I think that's powerful for my journey. Resonates with me, something significant. Um, man, I think you have to approach everything with appreciation. You never know where somebody else is going to be in their journey.
Yeah.
The life that I'm living might appear to be something to somebody else that it may not be. But you want to continue to encourage them. I think my life somewhat now, maybe trying to live to honor John and the life that he would live. So maybe I'm a part of his dream. There's a lot
Mm.
of significance to that quote, but I just use it as a motivation to be appreciative no matter where you're at in your journey because somebody's looking at you for
Yeah.
motivation to keep on keeping on.
Yeah. Very good. This is our show anchor. It's from Goth. And he said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Man, I think that's what faith is all about. You know, sometimes um, your journey may seem like it's out of your reach, but you just got to take your first step. I mean, uh, nothing in my life, in my past, would have um, led anyone to believe that I would have written a book.
Hmm.
But when that hits you, and when it's a dream of yours, and it's something that you think that is a part of your purpose, you take that step of faith and let God do the rest, and He will do the rest, and this is where you'll end up.
Very good. Thank you, Chris. And now, folks, it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Chris Zerzavy, I'm going to get that right by the end of the show,
Got
Zerzavy.
it. Yeah.
Please share a little love with our fabulous broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Chris, I love the way you've turned pain into purpose, honoring your son John's life by lifting up others with courage, faith, and love. And I admire your unwavering strength, your servant's heart, and the way you inspire people to find hope, even in the hardest moments. And I'm super happy that you've shared your faithful, fearless, and tenderhearted spirit on our show today. Will you take a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, I think one of the most significant things for me that I want to share came from my dad, and it was in my grieving times. And he said, Chris, one thing that you need to remember is that only you and me and those that miss John knew that his life was short. Um,
Mm.
John lived every day to the fullest. And I think that is such an encouragement to me of, man, if tomorrow's my last day, I want to make the best use of today to live in my purpose and do something significant. You mentioned one of the things about transformational approach, and man, when I was grieving, I would feel the need to go see John at his grave every day. I felt like I was staying connected to him through loss. And I don't know that that was a healthy place to be. And so one of the transformations that I had to do was, instead of staying connected to him in loss, I wanted to stay connected to who I knew him to be. And so that is one of the things that I tried to end the book with, is all of the ways that I want to try to mimic who John was in my everyday life. And so the last chapter of the book is called Live Like John. And I share stories of my John with the world, and the things that I learned from him, and the things that I try to implement into my days. And so I think that was the biggest thing that I wanted to leave this with, is just live like John. I try to every day, and I know the world would be a better place if we all did.
Very good. All right, Chris, thank you for that. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Chris and reaching folks just like you, ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Chris Zerzavy. Find him, friend him, buy his book, and after you read it, please give him a heartfelt review. You'll find all of it in the show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you, and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So don't wait. Head over to happyliving.com right now and click Unlock Here to start discovering the life you were meant to live, a life filled with purpose, joy, and true significance. And as you unlock your truth and your formula and your roadmap and your inspired life, take a minute to think about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome, and this is the Something Significant Show. And we're out.